Hello friends, welcome back for another part of our walkthrough of Oxygen Not Included's base game. Let's talk about a couple of things that have changed. You might immediately notice that I did put in some higher quality bedrooms here, just so I could get my dupes morale up a little bit more in preparation of running some of these rocket runs. So yeah. Other things that have happened, I did move my bathrooms a little bit out of the way so I could get some better space here, but this is kind of like the late game setup that you're going to want. Everything's sort of centralized in one place, so my duplicants, you can just watch their day. They basically will use the bathroom, run in here, grab something to eat. They'll lounge around for a little bit. You could put a recreation room here or something if you wanted to, and then they'll be off to sleep. But they're all going to have to do all this in a very small space. So that's kind of the idea, and that's what's going on here. Let's take a look at what we were working on last video so we can see the hydrogen generator all in action. So yeah, everything's working as expected. This steam is cooling this hydrogen down until it's up to a point where it can be pumped out by this gas pump safely. The pressure is obviously very high in here, so this one pump will just need to be on almost constantly while this is erupting to keep this pressure down. But I have my battery set up for this at 9535, meaning that this is going to be the very first thing that turns on and tries to power my base. So I want to use this resource as fast as I can if this is erupting, partly because this is very, very powerful in more than one way. But I mean, we might as well use the free sources that we can. And this one truly is renewable, the same way that natural gas is, whereas the magma will eventually harden, but it's going to take a really long time for that to happen. So yeah, that's what's happening with that. I did have to fix a couple of bugs in here, by the way. I changed this sensor to an Atmos sensor, just because I do still want some gas to be sitting in this room so that I can cool everything off. And I do have cooling running through here. At least it's set up. I probably need to add more to this because it's not filled up all the way. But yeah, I do have cooling running through here to help keep this room cool so that my machinery and stuff in here doesn't overheat. So yeah, it's in pretty good shape. So yeah, let's talk about what's changed ever since the last video, though. I did mention that we would be needing to go into the space biome, and we'll talk about this stuff in a second. But as we dig upward, or rather, as we get ready to go into the space biome, I want to be ready for my rocket area to be exposed to space soon, too. And this is a lot of digging out and restructuring and stuff that needs to happen before we can finally get up there. So I've just been making a lot of progress up there. But, like I just showed, I did put up another cooling setup right near the surface, because there's going to be stuff out on the surface that I need to keep cool. And I don't really want to run pipes all the way down from here back and forth if I can just create a new setup right next to it. So, created that. Then I created a huge bank of suits that are going to lead out into the space biome, and then a liquid lock afterward. So, I have this many suits so that my duplicants can all work out here as quickly as possible. You don't necessarily need this many, but you will find duplicants starting to idle by this phase if you don't give them something to do. So we're just going to do that now. First of all, I'm going to put a hood over the top of this so that this doesn't accidentally boil the water that I have here. So we'll start digging this out, and when you're coming out here, you're just going to start to make a way up and down to get to this. Our first objective is to dig out above all this space junk out here. Then we're going to put like a shield on top of us while we expand out. And the shielding that we're going to use is going to be this bunker tile. This is why you will need a lot of steel by this phase of the game, so you can start building this out. This bunker tile will eventually be removed, but this is going to protect you from meteor showers while you get everything underneath set up. The other thing too, let me start getting some of this stuff out of the way. Yes, yes. The other thing too is, now that we're getting out here, we could start putting up solar panels. They're not as lucrative as I would say that they are in Spaced Out, or as they were before. They do take a little bit more attention, and they definitely are probably the last source, power source that is, that you're going to get. But the good thing with them is they don't actually require any heat or anything like that, so you won't have to continue to pay any extra energy or anything like that to run them. They're just super free, cheap stuff that you can get out here. So if we're going to start getting our solar panels up, we might as well put up our glass forge, which we've been alluding to for a long time with this area. So, for your glass forge, I'm just going to set it up like that. Then we're going to need a liquid pipe that's going to come out, because the glass is going to come out in liquid form. We'll want to use something that won't melt when the glass comes out of it, so I'm going to use wolframite for the drain there. And then for shipping stuff, I'm going to want to build this out of steel, because this small tile right here is going to get really hot. This is also why, for the whole time we've been building this on top of a big like cooling tank, so that when the glass touches this, it can cool down as much as possible. I'm also going to grab a conveyor loader, and this was the other reason that we had this going on. I'm going to make this out of steel also. This is the other reason that we had this going on, of this like snaking down below, because I'm going to snake the glass through all of this to try to cool it off before it finally gets shipped out into my base. And then lastly, I also want to send sand here, because you need sand to make glass. So we already have one of our things set up to send sand. At least I thought we did. Oh, I never actually hooked that up. That's pretty funny. Okay. Well, we'll get that hooked up in just a little bit. I'm not going to worry about it too much right now. Okay, and then once you have that, you can just schedule your duplicants to come make some glass for you. So, I don't know. We'll just set this up for 80 right now. Sure, why not? And my duplicants should get on this, and they'll bring sand over manually for now. I'll ship it out later. We don't necessarily need to watch that. We've set up so many other things. Just make sure that what you're going to be putting into this one is only going to be the glass. You don't necessarily want to put anything else in here. So, yeah, there we go. You may have also encountered some glass in some of these other areas too, so if you have some to use right off the bat, that's also nice. You can make a couple of panels out of that. Just going to continue to dig up over here, demolish the stuff in the way. None of this is really all that useful. I'm only inspecting because it's a habit from Spaced Out. You actually should be doing stuff like that in Spaced Out to get some databanks for research. But here, I think it's just for, like, flavor. Once we get further up here, this regolith is going to behave exactly like sand. So be careful the first time you dig it out, it is going to fall down. And note how hot it is. This is extremely hot. You definitely don't want to just let this fall somewhere on your base or into your water or whatever. That's going to start overheating stuff. So yeah, but the process of getting out here is really not that complicated. Just basically dig your way up. And then once you get kind of close to the top, maybe around here or so, you can start the bunker tiles. The bunker tiles, you're just going to expand left and right to keep yourself safe from all the impacts of the meteors. Then once we're... like I mentioned, it behaves like sand, so it's going to trap everybody out here. But once we get out here, just going to start setting up something so I can reach my bunker tiles from about here. So I'll just dig out to the side either way. And if your buildings get damaged here, it's not too big of a deal. Your duplicants will just have to waste a little bit of time rebuilding it. So I'll just set up some bunker tiles like this. If you need to, you can also ship yourself steel, because this is where most of it's going to get used. I'm not that worried about it, because something else I haven't mentioned yet is I extended this transit tube all the way up to the top and added a new entrance right here, right next to where all my materials are going to be sitting. So if my duplicants need materials, they can just grab it, jump in the transit tube, fly up here, get off on the stop that they want to get off at, and it should still be pretty fast. Oh man, that meteor nailed this. That was really bad luck. So, if your duplicants need somewhere to stand, you can just use ladders. Like I mentioned, it's not going to be horrible if you get struck by it, but we do want to get this built as soon as possible, just so we're not wasting that much time dealing with this. In the meantime, you probably want to start digging out to the sides a little bit as well. So I'm going to have my duplicants dig over here. I'm just going to build it out of ladders like we typically do, just so that all the material will fall to the bottom and we can just deal with it all at once instead of having it all strewn about on a bunch of different platforms. And if we need more solid platforms later, we can always add them. That was too high. So we're getting the steel out here. Should be coming up pretty fast. I have plenty of duplicants and plenty of suits to deal with all this stuff too, so this should happen pretty quickly. I'm also going to dig out stuff on top of this area because I will want to make a new place to sort out everything that gets shipped. This regolith, while it is very hot, once we have access to this, like via the space, so I don't know why I'm making this so complicated. Once you can actually see out into space from here, I might want to drop this regolith on top of this metal so that I can harvest that for more energy. Either that, or you can just kind of pile it up in one place and leave it alone. Either one is totally fine. Just also be careful that you do have enough sand in your base during all this, because a small and weird side effect of doing this is that regolith is considered a filtration medium. So if you are needing something that needs filtration, like a water sieve or something like that, your duplicants will be tempted to bring the regolith into the base to use it for that, and that can cause a lot of problems. So just kind of keep an eye on your levels of sand. We still have plenty. It's also very important that we've been shipping our sand this entire time, so they're not tempted to do stuff like that. So yeah, that'll definitely help over time. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand this out pretty wide for the time being, but I think you get the idea for right now. So let's do our typical cut to an earlier point when we're ready to basically remove this and replace it with something else. So I'll be right back when that is time. Okay, here we are. Everything's pretty much hollowed out. We're ready to start building our things that will be more permanent rather than just this like hood on top of our base right now. So we'll start building that out. One thing that I want to do is we're going to be building stuff here. If we want to just kind of plan this out a little bit, my solar panels are just going to need to be on a layer that has some stuff above it because I don't want anything touching these solar panels. And these solar panels will get damaged very easily by this regolith that is extremely hot. So if I just start out by planning out where the solar panels are going to go, could just do something like this, and of course they're not going to work until we get them exposed to the sunlight, so we'll get there, but we'll start with that. The next thing I'm going to use to keep these things safe is these Meteor Blasters. This is something that's pretty new in the whole life cycle of Oxygen Not Included. I think it's really cool. I mostly think it's a really good idea for newer players to use this. In my other videos in the past, and even fairly recently, there's been other setups that will be cheaper than this, like easier, but they're like pretty exploity, and they're very complicated for newer players. So I'm just going to go with something that's a little bit more simple. So because we're going to be using the the Meteor Blasters, they're going to require Blast Shot in order to operate, and I have set up a station to create Blast Shot. You can create them out of copper or iron or aluminum. This is one of the biggest reasons why I took that copper volcano so early. Like, one, the refined metal is very strong, but two, this is going to be a constant drain on that. And I'm definitely going to want to keep this up so I can keep all that stuff up there safe. So that's going to be what we're going to spend in order to get this going. And once the blast shot is made, we're going to need to tell it to be shipped back to the center of our base. And then I will ship all this blast shot up on another rail because it can be loaded directly by conveyor rails. So this is going to be for our blast shot. We'll go ahead and set this up to take it, which is here. And then I've already run a line up there for the blast shot. It's just going to kind of be sticking out here, but let's start setting up where it's going to be sitting. This blast shot, rather, what do I keep calling it this? This Meteor Blaster is going to be generating heat. And the problem with anything that generates heat in space is that obviously it'll overheat if there's nothing to cool it. Everything else in your base is getting cooled because it's immersed in gas or liquid or something like that that can absorb the rest of the heat. But out here, there's nothing like that. We're going to need to make our own setup for cooling. So, as you can see, the Meteor Blaster has a pretty wide range, but it's not infinite. We're going to need a few of these, and we're going to need a way to cool these also. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out how far to the right I need to put this over while also allowing space for my rockets. So my rockets are going to sit about right here, and they're going to extend all the way up, and they're going to need this space to be available in order to launch. I think I can cover both sides with Meteor Blasters. One here and one over here. So I need to figure out how far over to put this first one, knowing that I'm going to need space for the rocket. So the rocket's going to sit right here, and this ladder will be here when I build my rockets, so that I know that there will not be rocket on this tile up out in space. So if I just kind of hold my mouse in place and scroll up, it looks like right here is the furthest tile over that we can build on without interrupting our rockets. So our rockets are going to emit a lot of exhaust when they go off, so I'm just going to build a wall like this that's just going to be to block the exhaust from damaging any stuff that's over here. Then, just to the side of that wall, I'm going to start building the places that are going to be holding the Meteor Blasters. So I'm going to do something like this. I'm going to lower this wall in just a little bit. Maybe like here, because I don't want it to impact the actual Meteor Blaster. We'll check our ranges in just a second to figure out how high or low we need to go. But I'm making this out of window tile so that if I have window tile that spans all the way across here, which you can do this one of a couple ways. You can either have window tile that connects to the area that's being cooled or not. We'll talk about that. But I do want window tile above all my solar panels. That's going to keep all the material off, but still allow light to shine through. Okay, so we'll throw our Meteor Blaster up right here. We need to space out our ladders a little bit more because it's a little bit taller than the 4 spaces that most buildings are. So if we set it up like this, it looks like we could raise the walls just a little bit on this side. So we'll do that. We also may need to come down from the top in order to get this last part done, or I could just build a ladder underneath just to get this reshaped. Let's do that. I think that'll fit. So, we're going to need a couple of things here. One, obviously, is the Meteor Blaster. Then we're going to need some stuff to help cool this. So, in the background of these tiles, I'm going to need something that's going to be able to hold water there, and the water is going to be what we use to keep that cool. We're going to keep a cooling loop going on to cycle this out over time. So, I'm going to put the Meteor Blaster here, obviously, but next to it, I'm also going to want some shipping stuff, so that if any regolith or any debris from those meteors falls on top of it, that this will at least move it out of the way and not heat up the water too much. So that I'm not paying to cool off regolith that is just going to sit there and do nothing. If we're going to do that, we also need a conveyor loader. Again, I want to make these out of steel just in case. And then a wall on this side. This is the part where we can debatably either cool the whole thing and ship everything out and actually use this regolith for energy. I'm going to keep it more simple and not do that. So at the point where these two things would join, I'm just going to put a mesh tile there because mesh tile is also something that sunlight can get through. Likewise, using these window tiles, if there's water on top of these tiles, the light will still shine through the water and the tiles to get down to the solar panels. So lots of good stuff here that you can use. Let me check one thing. We might need to get rid of one of these. So let me get rid of this. Let me get this side out of here first, because I just forgot that we need to build our telescope. Alright, then we're also going to need some drywall to hold all this water in. And actually, I'm going to need one more tile to the side of this, because we need to measure the water level. So I'm going to scoot this over one. That. Grab another mesh tile, put it here. So on this side, we're just going to need a sensor to let us know if there's enough water in this or not. And just to give it back, like give us more water if we need it. I'll just make this out of gold. And then likewise, I'm going to need drywall back here wherever the water is going to be coming out. So put a liquid vent there. As soon as we can get this stuff built, we can actually place that, and then we can run our shipping lines up here to get that taken care of. I'm only going to build one of these, and then I'll build the telescope. Let's see. Where is this? Telescope. Yeah, it's going to need to go right here. We'll need a little bit more space. Like I said, it can see through those tiles, so just need to know how many to measure out here to make sure that we're going to have enough space. So you could put it all the way down here if you need to. You can see it just kind of sees out in a straight line. So I might just put it further down, but I still do want to put this on like a platform or something. So yeah, let's get these ladders moved out of the way really quick. There, that should be plenty. Alright, Meteor Blaster, let's get over here. There we go. We'll go ahead and send the line of blast shot into this. Running low on metal once again. This is going to be a constant tax. So we'll run that in there like this. And then out is going to be any of the debris that I don't want. So I need to just collect my debris somewhere. Because I'm not going to be harvesting it for energy, I'm not going to make this too complicated, but I still will want some stuff that comes down. Like, occasionally it'll drop iron or copper or something like that. I'm still going to want to ship that in, so at least for right now, I'm just going to drop it off somewhere down here. And I'll just drop it all in one spot. So something like that. Just put a mesh tile there. We'll deal with the shipping part of this in the next video, but at least for right now, we'll have a plan for it. And I don't want it to fall on any of my solar panels or anything that might be here, so I'm going to move it. I'm going to run it further down. I could probably actually drop it here, because I'm not going to be building any solar panels that far down. Might as well save the metal. Okay, and the stuff we want to ship out of here is basically everything. I don't think it would grab blast shot out of this and put it in here. I guess we'll double check that. As far as power for everything out here, I'm already going to need to be running heavy watt wire for this. So I'm going to go ahead and just connect up my solar panels like that. And then I can either run wire up here as well, because it'll probably be close enough that it's not going to matter too much. Or I could just create... Actually, it's probably be better off just to create a separate power setup just for these. Only because I'm really running low on metal. But we have other sources that are pretty much infinite, like lead and whatnot. The lead shouldn't melt. It'll be close. But as long as we keep it cooled, I think it'll be fine. If not, we can use copper or some other kind of refined metal for this. So let me do this once again. We're kind of drifting in terms of time. Let me fast forward a little bit until this is all pretty much operational. Then we'll take the hood off and we'll be pretty much done with this video before we talk about the next portion, which would be sorting and shipping materials out of here and stuff. So be right back. All right, here we are back with pretty much the done setup. The only thing we need to do is get rid of the top here. There's an active meteor shower going on, by the way, so hopefully we can catch this thing in action. But the last thing that I want to do is go up to the top of this and start digging out all the regolith. I don't want it to fall and bury everything when I finally take this hood off. And the way that I'm getting up here is just kind of building some stepping stones with these bunker tiles so my duplicates can get up there. If you build ladders and stuff, they will get damaged, so this is the easiest way just to get on top of this and start mining it out. But everything else is good to go. We have a couple of lines for liquids that are going to be, one, the water to... as we wait for the game to load. One for the water to come in here and just sit, and I have it hooked up to a hydro sensor so that if there's not enough water in here, say it gets boiled off or something weird like that, more water will fall in and that'll keep it replenished. Then you can see the cooling loop of water that's coming through here just to keep everything at a reasonable temperature. So I have it all in insulated pipes up until I need it to be in radiant pipes to help cool this area down. So yeah, that's pretty much that. The telescope is sitting right below it. Like I mentioned, it can see through the water and the glass. Or the diamond, I guess, but it's kind of glass, just like a clear surface. So yeah, that's good to go. And then these will not start getting any power until we expose it to light. I'm probably not going to open up the whole thing yet because the range of this thing is about this. I have noticed that if they don't have any kind of backup, sometimes they will miss meteors every once in a while, and I don't really want that to happen. So I'm only going to uncover enough for the telescope right now, so maybe up to here. And then I'll get the rest of this done up when we add a few more blasters over to the side so that they can get a little bit of redundancy and cover each other's space a little bit. So almost ready to open this up, and then once we are, notice how I'm only building this like 4 tiles on the 4th tile above this, so my duplicates can undo this from the bottom. They don't have to be on top here and potentially get stuck. They still might. I'll cancel all these things so that they leave this area. There we go. Now they shouldn't really... well, I guess he's just going to take all the iron. Now they shouldn't really want to go up here anymore, and we can check to see how far this covers. I think this should cover all the way over. I also don't really think this is that important to keep covered, but for the time being, let's just unearth where we need for the telescope, and then we'll kind of expand it as time goes on. Let's see, deconstruct buildings. Gonna do maybe something like that. Doesn't need to be too wide. Then this will just, it looks like the shower just ended, so we'll see this in action later if we don't see it right now, but everything should spin up and get going. There's going to be a lot of regolith that's going to fall down in here, but we'll get it shipped out. Just get it dropped onto a tile over here where it's not really going to be exposing any like temperature changes to anything that we don't want it to. Oh, look, here's an active meteor shower now, so perfect timing. Also note that I do have the blast shot coming in on this conveyor, so I'm just going to be continuously making that, and it'll automatically get loaded into the Meteor Blaster when it's time. Now that this can see, the last thing that we need to do is hook this up to oxygen, and then we need to set it up, give it a target to actually study. So you hook up our oxygen line like that, then the star map, you're just going to want to select something, hit Analyze Object, and the more you do this, the further your rockets will be able to travel. But I'm just going to keep this telescope busy until we've revealed everything on the star map. Then once it's done, we won't really need it that much anymore. Like, we'll need it to run rocket missions, but we can also replace this area with with solar panels. So yeah, that'll be another thing we can definitely do. So yeah, everything is pretty much up and running. A duplicate will get up here, assuming they are spec'd for it, and they will start studying the closest asteroid that we have. And that'll be that. So that's pretty much it for this video. So thanks for watching. I'll be back in a little bit where we'll kind of flesh this out a little bit more. We'll set up a network for shipping stuff back into our base that we might want. And then we'll do a couple other things. But yeah, we'll be back here in just a little bit. So thanks for watching and take care.